Ladies and gentlemen, so we've beaten Dortmund. We've beaten Dortmund. That's literally how I'm going to start the video. We've beaten Dortmund 3-2, ladies and gentlemen. In a game that, honestly, Dortmund was probably a better team. Dortmund was probably a better team in that game, and that's just the fact of life. But it doesn't actually matter, because it doesn't matter if you're a better team or the worst team. What matters is that you've scored the goal, and that's exactly what we did today. But just from that perspective, let's talk about the big negative first of all, which is obviously that Kimmich got injured. Kimmich is out. We don't know for how long just yet. Obviously, we'll see once we get the news, but it didn't look good. That was an outstretched knee. A weight put on it onto an outstretched knee. That is never a good. That is never a good thing to see. But again, we don't have the diagnosis just yet, so we actually can't say how long he is potentially out for. But that is the massive negative of the game, which kind of put aside like the result of the game or the rest of the game. In my personal opinion, I was like, doesn't bother me as much anymore. But it's still an important game for some people. I don't see it as an important game anymore at all. I've never seen it. In the past couple of years, the past couple of seasons, the last 3 seasons for me, this game has been relatively unimportant in the grand scheme of things, because everyone thinks that Dortmund are a title challenger. They're not. Right, they're not. They never have been. Because once the pressure's on them, they crumble like a house of cards, and that's just a fact of life. So Leipzig, for me, the game against Leipzig will obviously be much more important for me, because I feel like Leipzig are actually a team that can challenge us for the title, whereas with Dortmund I don't see that at all. But besides that, we won 3-2. We still got the 3 points in a relatively important game. We did pretty well. I thought we did pretty well. I thought our players did relatively well. I thought our defense actually did pretty well. I know we conceded the second goal that we conceded. Basically, our whole defense switched off. But I think in general, our defense, I think there wasn't a bad player in our defense. Boateng, I thought, was very, very good. I thought he basically contained Haaland for most of the game. Unfortunately, he went off, potentially injured as well. I've seen some people claim that he went out with cramps or with injury. We don't know yet as well. But I thought he did really well containing Haaland. He wasn't going to beat Haaland in the speed race, but he just, he worsened the angle for Haaland so many times, which is why so many of Haaland's shots just went completely wide. Which is then when he went off, obviously we kind of struggled a little bit containing Haaland. But I thought Alaba had also had a very strong game. Obviously, he scored the goal. It was a deflection, massively deflected, so I don't really care about that. But I thought in general his defending was very, very strong. One of our best players, honestly, and one of the players that I feel has a shout for man of the match. Has a shout for it, but I think there's one other player that I really want to give it to. But let's talk a little bit more about our defenders. Lucas Hernandez. Fantastic game. Absolutely brilliant. Fantastic game. Assist as well for Lewandowski's goal. I thought he had a very strong game. Then he won the ball, which also led for the counter for Sané's goal. Fantastic game. I thought just a very, 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 very strong game. His offensively he has been very, very strong in the past couple of weeks, but it's always been his offensive contributions that have been the letdown. Again, with his assist today, brilliant cross, absolutely fantastic. A flawless performance from me. Besides Dortmund's second goal, which is when he was playing Haaland on. So besides that, good performance. Unfortunately, we come to the black sheep. Sarr. I thought he had a terrible game. I thought he had a terrible game. Before the game started, I was like, oh yeah, Sarr looks brilliant. Looks brilliant. I was saying, Sarr so far, before the game started, I was tweeting that, oh yeah, Sarr's looked good. He's looked sharp. Every time he's come on, besides the game where he's played at left back, which obviously is not his position, and the game against Atletico Madrid, where, maybe the occasion got to him, he's had a good game. Today, maybe the occasion got to him. I could maybe make the argument again, but he did not have a good game. His passes essentially what forced Kimmich to stretch and then get injured. He also headed it back, which almost led to another Dortmund goal. So just in general, his play was lacking. Let's call it that. Well, it's still early days. We will see how it develops. But I do want to highlight another newcomer, Sané. Sané again coming on and absolutely looking fantastic. I expect big things from him. I expect many assists and many goals from him, and that's exactly what we're getting week in, week out. He's obviously not 100% yet, and he's still obviously coming back from his injury, but he is looking sharp. The training that he's doing, the attacking training that he's doing with Miroslav Klose is obviously producing, because he's been in the last 2 games. When he's come on, he's been looking very, very sharp, absolutely frightening. The way he's the way usually we would go for like the assist, but now he's actually going for the goal. I'm like, oh, perfect. Perfect. A left-footed winger with a number 10 that's going for the goal. Sign me up. Sign me up. Coleman had a brilliant game. Lewandowski had a brilliant game. Müller had a fantastic game. Gnabry had a mixed game. Very good moments here and there. Looked dangerous, but like it just didn't really work for him. Goretzka looked strong in the first half. I did not realize he was playing in the second half, to be completely honest. Like, he looked very, very good in the first half. In the second half, he was kind of just invisible, which is understandable to a degree because, you know, obviously he just came back from the knock that he had. Tolisso was okay. I didn't think he was necessarily world class, necessarily great, necessarily bad. Just okay, like all right, okay, cool. Besides that though, that's pretty much the game. Like the game, honestly, it was Dortmund were the better team. Like they had more chances, they created more. They were just a better team, but they weren't clinical. Whereas we were, you know, that's just the kind of game that we sometimes have where we are more clinical, and that thus we win. And you know what? I'm okay with that. But now we move onwards, upwards, and forwards, ladies and gentlemen, as always. Hopefully the Kimmich injury won't be too severe. I'm hoping it's going to be like, you know, oh, he's out for. Worst case scenario, honestly, best case scenario is that it's a knock. For some reason, somehow that's a dead leg or something. But that's the best case scenario. The absolute best case, but the most unrealistic scenario. Realistic scenario is this. He pulled an MCL and is out for 6 to 8 weeks. That's the best, realistic best case scenario. Worst case scenario is an ACL and he's out for 6 to 8 months. Let's see. Let's see what it is, ladies and gentlemen. Let us see. But, yeah, Dortmund 3-2. Ha. Ha. That's my response. Ha. Lewandowski could have had 2 more goals, but I ruled offside. First one is very debatable. Second one, not debatable at all. But hey, it is what it is. We move onwards, upwards, and forwards, ladies and gentlemen. So we will see how we'll perform in the next one. But that's all I can say for now. Let's wait and see on Kimmich's injury. But regardless, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, have a nice day. Goodbye. And peace.